What does it really mean to be safe? To feel safe in your body? I'm sure you have your own definition of it. I have my own definition of it. And it's highly likely that those definitions shift and evolve with us over time through experience. But I do think there are some foundational aspects of safety that we can be aware of that can support us in making choices for ourselves that are aligned, that are fulfilling, and in taking care of ourselves, and in our relationships to ourselves. I think safety is something we need to talk a lot more about, because I've learned from a decade of attempting to overcome some of my more limiting aspects in life and in myself. I've found that the key thing, the thing that would stop me from changing or accelerate my change, whatever it is that I'm growing, evolving, or whatever, the common denominator was safety. And I've taken the time to really understand what are the mechanics of safety? Like, how does one actually create safety in the body? Because I find myself over here craving douche McGee, dusty boy over here, even though I don't even want him anymore. I find myself craving substances that I don't really even value. Why do I want things that aren't the best for me, Or why why do I choose the things that I choose despite who I feel like I truly am deep down? Why am I making choices out of alignment with that version of myself? Why is it so challenging to realize who I am and then step into the shoes of that person? And I realize it's because of safety. And it's because safety, to me, I've learned, is twofold. It has one side of it in the nervous system, it has everything to do with familiarity. That and that right there is why we might want things that don't necessarily serve us, but at one point in time they did. This the people I've chosen to love in the past, they resonated with a version of me at that time. And they fulfilled some kind of storyline, some kind of self-perception or whatever. They fulfilled something, they reflected something to me. Everything serves a purpose. Everything does. And if you don't choose to see it that way, you're missing out on some opportunities. You're missing out on expansion. There's a lot hidden in our challenges and in the situations that we think are a waste of time. They're actually so important, so significant. You just got to learn how to look at them to excavate their gold, if you will. So, safety, it's not just about not being out of harm's way. It's also about nervous system familiarity. So, what is familiar to me? What am I used to? Oh, well, I was raised in stressful environments where we avoided our emotions, where self-care was seen as weird and selfish and stupid and only for the rich or whatever, only for people who really could afford to do that. As we're victims to life over here. We got the short end of the stick. Whatever. So I have all these patterns just picked up from listening, placing my attention on the situations around me, the people, the things people are saying around me, how they're responding to things. You're doing this as a child without even trying to. You're just being a sponge. So we can pick up patterns that ultimately in our adulthood are not going to serve us. But we adopt them at the time because it is a survival strategy, right? That's why some things can become habitual in the body. It can be a habitual response, which is familiarity, even though it doesn't serve us. And there's a lot of things. I'm sure you have a lot of things on your list of like, oh, I need to fix this. This is my problem. This is where I sabotage myself, blah, blah, blah. But like ultimately, those toxic patterns, they're survival patterns. They were developed within you at one point in time because that seemed like the best idea at the time to your nervous system, to your subconscious. And it's very intelligent. So if that was the best thing you had at the time, it was probably what was necessary. And so as an adult, it's our responsibility to take more responsibility for our own sense of safety. And for a lot of us, that means updating the rules about what it means to be safe and changing our relationship to ourselves, because that's the other side of this. I said safety is twofold. It's familiarity, right? Habits in thought and how you're perceiving yourself, how you're looking at yourself, how you're treating yourself. And that's the other side of it. Your relationship to you. What is the quality of your relationship to you? Is it thoughtful and intentional? Is it loving? Is it kind? Is it forgiving? Is it nourishing? Or is it more judgmental, more critical, more perfectionistic? Is it more, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy kind of energy? This is all stuff that if you're honest with yourself about it, it can guide you into more fulfillment, into more happiness, into more peace, which is ultimately what you're wanting. That's why you're wanting to change certain things, because you don't feel fulfilled. You know that you don't feel safe, even though your body might be flagging certain things as safe, certain patterns, because they're familiar. You know deep down, there's another voice in you saying, but this isn't my safety. This may have been someone else's version of safety that they were okay with, but this isn't good enough for me. And that's okay. That's necessary. A sovereignty. So feeling safe, it has everything to do with how you're showing up for yourself day in and day out. That can seem tedious. That can seem like, oh gosh, okay, well, if I really want to feel safe, that's a lot of work. It might feel like that at first. I know it did for me at first. It was challenging to create safety in my body, but the rewards are so immediate that you keep coming back for more. And, for me, I feel like safety can be anchored in different things for each of us, right? I think safety can be anchored in the external, like circumstances, relationships, bank accounts. We can anchor our safety in that. And I think, in fact, that's what a lot of us start out with. But I don't think that's real safety. I think that's projected safety. I think that is, like, in other words, I only feel at ease. I can relax when my bank account shows a certain number, or I can only really feel good about myself when I'm in a relationship type stuff. That's all safety. That's all fundamental, foundational safety stuff. And so I believe that we can anchor it outside of ourselves or we can anchor it within ourselves. And since everything's a mirror, since relationships, circumstances are all reflecting us, it almost seems foolish once you know that, right? To say, okay, well, then this circumstance, things need to be a certain way for me to feel fully at ease in the moment, for me to fully trust myself. And here's what I've learned, my friends. True, genuine safety that is unshakable, rooted in you, and it's rooted in anchored in your relationship to yourself. It is consistent. Even if there's turbulence around you, even if the emotional weather within you is stormy that day, even if there's conflict around you, maybe someone around you just really doesn't like you. I'm in that situation now. I have a family member that just is like projecting all their self-hate onto me. It is what it is, right? But that shit used to rattle me. And when you are connected to a genuine sense of safety, cultivated from within, anchored within, that sense of ease, there is a felt sense of ease, confidence, and trust that starts to flow throughout you. And it sits there. It's like a child when they're upset throwing a tantrum, but you have the parent there making sure that they don't hurt themselves or anything else or anyone else, right? It's like that safety buffer. Well, that's what genuine safety is in our bodies. It is ease, confidence, and trust, clarity that just sits in there, waiting for the storm to pass, waiting to greet us when it's over, or holding us in our strength and our courage, even throughout the challenging situation, whatever that may be. It's the foundation, it's the ground you stand on. It's that thing that says, I will still make a choice, even though right now I'm uncomfortable and I'm angry and I'm upset or whatever. I'm still going to make a choice that honors my value, honors my inherent worth. It honors who I am. It honors me as a person because I matter. That's what true, genuine safety feels like in the body. That's how it expresses. And that is available to us when we take full responsibility for it, when we stop putting it on external circumstances, when we stop blaming people for our sense of safety, for our discomfort. And I just said this to a client the other day. I said, it seems like there's a part of you that feels afraid to move into this next step or whatever. I'm not going into really details about what she's going through, and her response was, I don't know if I don't feel unsafe. But here's the thing. And I had to explain this to her. Fear, it's not always, oh God, something's going to get me. Or, oh gosh, it's not always loud. Fear is so quiet sometimes. It shows up as subtle resistance, procrastination, having no energy to do this thing that you absolutely want to do. You want to do, it's for you. Having so much mental fog that you just can't think clearly enough to actually decide anything. That's fear. Subtle, subtle, subtle fear. And it's all goes back into safety. I found, and I learned this because through my experience, I would wrestle with the story, right? We hear the thought loops like, oh, this person said this to me. They're so mean to me. They don't care about me, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm unworthy. Maybe blah, 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 blah. When I stopped listening to all that stuff and I just got quiet with myself and I just said, you know what? Maybe I just don't feel safe. When I started doing that, I started noticing things unlock. I started noticing myself let things go a lot faster because I would do this while tapping. And I would just skip the story for a minute and be like, all right, noise aside, what he says, she said, whatever. This happened, that happened. I don't feel safe. And that's okay. And I would just be there for that version of myself, that part of me that didn't feel safe. And I would tap to help restore that sense of safety because that's what tapping does. It tells your body, we're here, we're good, there is no threat. Everything's okay. So that way your thinking brain can turn back on. And you can actually access that clarity and that confidence, that sense of trust in yourself, even when you don't feel super great. So true safety is as sturdy as a floor has to be before it's, all the footings. I'm not savvy in these words here, but you get what I'm saying. A genuine sense of safety has the same kind of sturdiness that a properly built floor would, that a house is going to rest on. And that is completely within your control. No one can actually take away your safety, your foundational sense of safety. And that's your gatekeeper to reality. If you try on let's say you work with affirmations, let's say you're like, okay, I want to, I don't know, feel more beautiful. So you're telling yourself, I am beautiful every day. And every time you say it, your body's like, oh, stop. No, I'm not. That is your inner protector. It's saying this thought, this neural pattern that you're activating by giving it your attention, by thinking the thought, I am beautiful, it is unfamiliar to me. I don't recognize this. This isn't something that you've really ever said before. I'm used to hearing I'm ugly. This directly counters what you've been telling me. And there's discomfort. That discomfort is not a sign that this isn't true. You can't believe this thought, this neural pattern. Don't keep giving this your attention. This is false. You're lying to yourself. That's not what it's saying. That's what your thoughts might be saying, but that's not what your body's actually saying. Your body's just saying, this is different. This is weird. I don't know how I feel about this. And so when you tap while addressing that discomfort with love and compassion, with acceptance, because it's there, don't reject it. It is what it is. and you bring your body back into a state of safety, which you if you tap long enough, that'll happen. It doesn't usually take all that long before you start to notice yourself relaxing. And then you can try that thought on again. And you can see, oh, my body's not fighting it as much now. I still feel a little tension, but it's not as like aggressive. And then you keep tapping. You do that every day, a little every day. And eventually you're going to say that thought to yourself and it's not going to feel like anything. And you're going to think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. No, that is your nervous system, your safety, your inner protector, your gatekeeper saying, all right, this guy can hang out. We can chill with this friend because they don't seem like a threat. We're a little more familiar with them. Maybe a lot more familiar with them. And then you keep going and you keep going and you start to notice, wow, I feel beautiful. And then you start to notice, ooh, I like how my hair looks today. Ooh, I love my eyes today. Oh, wow, this outfit actually looks really good on me. I always thought it didn't flatter me, but it turns out it does. All that starts changing because your sense of safety is shifted. So it's about having a really loving, accepting, unconditionally loving relationship with yourself. That's genuine safety. Just like a parent, I want to say, is supposed to be with their child. It's not really a common thing all the time because usually parents have children while dysregulated as fuck. I was one of them at first. And it's hard to just be unconditional with someone when you're not unconditional with yourself. Because ultimately, again, your relationship to yourself is everything, it bleeds into everything. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying about safety. It's not it's not the most accurate use of our sense of safety to anchor it into something outside of ourselves that we cannot control. But when it's rooted in you, especially knowing that your relationship ripples out with yourself, ripples out into every other relationship in your life with inanimate things or people, animals, jobs, whatever. Your relationship to yourself is the foundation of that. And so when your safety is anchored in that, it's fucking unshakable. Then you really are your fiercest protector. So, I really hope that this conversation helps you really inspires you, if you haven't been already, to look at your relationship to your sense of safety, to be curious about the parts of you that resist growing and evolving and changing and shifting. And I hope it explains more of why it's been difficult to change certain things. And I hope more than anything, it helps you see that the changes you're wanting to make, they're right there within reach. It's just a matter of reorienting your sense of safety to be anchored within you and your relationship to yourself, and making sure that relationship to yourself is loving and generous and thoughtful and intentional. And then your body opens up to you. Your emotional world opens up to you. Life then gets to open up to you because it's all reflecting you. But I invite you to ask any questions. If there's a question that came through while we were talking about this, because I'm just speaking from a stream of consciousness here. I know I could have missed some important things here. So if there's something that came through and you're like, I feel like we need to talk more about this angle, this perspective, this insight that came to me, share it with me, comment it, message me, whatever. Email me, however you want to reach out. And let's talk about it because, like I said, this is so important. It's foundational. This is the thing. When you prioritize safety, it changes everything. It changes how you approach everything. It allows you to feel a constant, I don't want to say, because we don't always feel okay. We ebb and we flow in our emotional states. It's weather, it's not anything permanent. But I think when it comes to having a really healthy relationship to yourself and understanding how to cultivate safety within yourself around something, around a change, around an identity, around anything, I think when you understand that familiarity and that compassion, that unconditional acceptance and love, when you put all that together, there's a level of ease that exists outside of a mood. There's a level of peace. Let me say that. That's probably a better word. There's a level of peace that exists just underneath, like background noise. It's just there. Kind of like that anxiety used to be. It's like a hum of peace that you can always tap back into if you stray too far. It's like you just know it's there because it's yours. You put it there. And you put it there with so much repetition, so much consistency because you were devoted and loyal to your relationship to yourself, right? Because we need that familiarity for the nervous system to say yes to a new pattern, a new way of being. You've done that so thoroughly that that peace is just constant. And it becomes something that you're unwilling to give up. And it becomes something that you're also willing to fight for. That might mean being a little more cold in situations. I don't mean hurtful. I mean detached. I mean disinterested. I mean intolerant. That might be required of you to protect that peace, never at the expense of another. That's not true peace. Because at the end of the day, we're all connected. You don't want to inflict pain. We're moving away from that. But that peace becomes something that you become very protective of. And you should be. Because that's your floorboard. That's your foundation. You're not going to just let the floors rot, are you? No, you're going to call in an expert and you're going to get them looked at and repaired. Only in this case, you are ultimately the expert. Always. I mean, how you can have someone like me, you can have a coach walk you through that, help you learn how to lay your floors. Sure. But you are the only one that can keep them alive and well, strong, sturdy, healthy. And that is in your relationship to yourself, in your how you talk to yourself, how you respond to challenges within yourself. That always comes first. And if that's news to you, it's just something you weren't consciously aware of. It doesn't mean it didn't exist. But I think I'm going to leave this here. I think I'm feeling this stream of consciousness come to an end. So yeah, like I said, reach out to me. Make sure you guys are subscribed for more information or conversations like this, where we really talk about this real shit that makes a difference in our lives. And of course, for anyone who feels called to work with me and join my unmasked intensive, I have a 4-week option or a 1-week option. Those links are all in the show notes. But I love you guys. I look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you on this topic of safety. And until then, I'll catch you in the next episode.